the internet didn't glitch, it erupted. When 50 Cent stepped into a situation already swirling with claims, rumors, and unresolved drama involving Claressa Shields, Papoose, and Remy Ma, his reaction didn't just stir the pot, it fueled a wildfire. Fans are calling it one of his most cutting, unfiltered, and merciless moments yet. And because this isn't just about celebrity feuds anymore, it's about reputations, ego, and public narrative. The fallout is already spreading faster than anyone expected. Here's what you need to know. According to what's flooding social platforms right now, 50 Cent didn't wait for confirmation or nuance. He allegedly posted, then deleted, a series of sarcastic comments, memes, and captions that appeared to mock Claressa Shields in the wake of the supposed pregnancy drama involving Papoose and Remy Ma. Whether or not there's any truth to the pregnancy claims themselves, 50's response was interpreted by many as deliberate ridicule, the kind of brutal commentary he's known for, but turned towards someone who wasn't even directly involved in the original feud. And that's where it got messy, because this wasn't just playful trolling. It felt personal, sharp, targeted, as if 50 was tossing gasoline on a fire that was already dangerously close to spinning out of control. Fans who follow him know that he rarely misses a chance to comment on cultural hot topics. But in this case, people are wondering if he crossed a line by amplifying a narrative that's already destabilized several people's lives online. The reactions have been instantaneous and divided. Supporters of Claressa blasted 50, accusing him of piling on, mocking mental health and personal vulnerability, and turning someone's emotional journey into a punchline. Fans of 50 defended him, saying he was just reminding the internet to stop taking every rumor seriously, or suggesting he was taking aim at the chaos of the narrative, not at Claressa personally. Neutral observers are calling it a classic example of internet pylon, where one celebrity's reaction becomes louder than the situation itself. All of this has reignited debates about online culture, public shaming, and whether someone's personal struggles should ever be meme fodder, especially when verified facts are still scarce. No official posts from 50 Cent remain up at the time of writing, so it's unclear whether this was intentional shade, impulsive humor, or something he regrets. Regardless, once the internet saw what appeared to be mocking captions about Claressa Shields, the discourse immediately shifted from what happened with Papoose and Remy Ma to why is 50 laughing at this? And when 50 Cent gets involved, the internet listens and then it reacts. If Claressa responds, the next chapter of this story is going to be even louder. But for now, the question on everyone's mind is simple. Did 50 go too far, or did he just say what everyone else was thinking? The moment 50 Cent's name became attached to this situation, the temperature changed instantly, not because new facts emerged, but because power entered the chat. Up until that point, the conversation around Claressa Shields, Papoose, and Remy Ma had been messy, emotional, and unresolved. But it was still largely confined to people directly involved or adjacent to the situation. 50 Cent doesn't operate in that lane. When he comments, he doesn't clarify, he reframes. And that reframing is what sent shockwaves through the internet. What made this moment hit so hard wasn't a press release or a formal statement. It was tone, sarcasm, mockery, or what many interpreted as mockery. According to screenshots and accounts circulating online, 50 Cent allegedly posted commentary that appeared to laugh at Claressa Shields in the midst of renewed chaos tied to Papoose and Remy Ma, including unverified pregnancy rumors that were already inflaming emotions. Whether his intention was to joke, provoke, or simply insert himself into a trending topic, the effect was immediate. Claressa became the punchline in a story she didn't control. And that's where outrage ignited. For many fans, this felt like a pylon. Claressa Shields had already been under intense scrutiny, with her emotions, reactions, and silence dissected for weeks. To see a figure as influential as 50 Cent seemingly add ridicule to that pressure felt cruel rather than entertaining. People weren't just upset, they were confused. Why her? Why now? And why take aim at someone who wasn't even central to the latest rumor cycle? Supporters argued that this wasn't classic 50 trolling, it was opportunistic. They pointed out that Claressa had become an easy target precisely because she'd been emotionally visible. That visibility, they said, made her vulnerable to mockery in a culture that still treats women's emotional expression as entertainment rather than context. And when someone like 50 Cent laughs publicly, that laughter carries weight. It signals permission for others to laugh too. Others pushed back, insisting the reaction was overblown. They argued that 50 Cent mocks everyone, that his online persona is built on irreverence, and that taking his posts seriously misses the point. To them, he wasn't mocking Claressa personally. He was mocking the chaos of the narrative itself. The problem with that defense, critics argued, is that impact doesn't disappear just because intent is unclear. When humor punches down, especially amid unresolved personal turmoil, it stops being neutral. What complicated everything further were the pregnancy rumors themselves, which remain unverified and speculative. Those rumors had already injected a volatile, deeply personal element into the discourse. Pregnancy speculation isn't just gossip. It involves bodies, futures, and private lives. And when that kind of rumor is treated casually or jokingly by a major celebrity, it magnifies harm regardless of accuracy. Even false claims can wound when amplified. The internet reacted in waves. First came shock, then anger, then alignment. Fans of Claressa rallied, flooding timelines with messages about respect, boundaries, and the difference between humor and harassment. Mental health advocates pointed out that public ridicule during moments of emotional vulnerability can have real consequences. Others focused on power dynamics, how a man with enormous cultural influence, mocking a woman already under scrutiny, reinforces exactly the kind of imbalance people claim not to support. Meanwhile, fans of 50 Cent defended his right to speak, joke, and comment freely. They argued that the internet can't demand authenticity from celebrities and then police how they express it. Some even suggested that Claressa's supporters were projecting deeper frustrations onto 50's post, frustrations that should be directed elsewhere. That divide only widened the rift. What's crucial here is that 50 Cent didn't need to say much for the damage or controversy to occur. His brand is implication. A caption here, a meme there, a laugh emoji placed just precisely enough to let the internet do the rest. And once the internet takes over, intention becomes irrelevant. Narratives crystallize fast, especially when someone known for trolling enters an emotionally charged space. Another layer that unsettled people was silence. At the time this section of the story unfolded, there was no public clarification from 50 Cent explaining his intent. Posts were reportedly deleted or no longer visible, which only fueled speculation. Deletion can mean regret, it can mean strategy, or it can mean nothing at all. But in the absence of explanation, people filled the gap with interpretation, and those interpretations skewed harsh. Claressa herself did not immediately respond, and that silence became another focal point. Some viewed it as dignity, refusing to engage with mockery. Others worried it meant she was absorbing yet another blow without support. Either way, the absence of her voice contrasted sharply with the loudness of the ridicule directed toward her, reinforcing the sense of imbalance that had been troubling fans for weeks. This first phase of the story isn't about proving what 50 Cent meant or didn't mean. It's about how quickly ridicule becomes narrative when power, timing, and vulnerability collide. It's about how a joke, or something perceived as a joke, can escalate an already fragile situation into something heavier. And it's about the uneasy realization that in celebrity culture, the loudest voice often reshapes the story, whether it's fair or not. As this chapter closed, one thing was undeniable. 50 Cent's involvement shifted the spotlight. The conversation stopped being solely about unresolved drama and became about respect, accountability, and whether humor has limits when real people are hurting. And once that question is asked publicly, it doesn't fade easily. Because laughter, especially when it comes from the top, has consequences, whether the person laughing acknowledges them or not. As the story moved into its second phase, the focus drifted away from the exact wording of 50 Cent's alleged posts and toward something much more unsettling: what his reactions symbolized in the middle of an already fragile situation. Because by now, it wasn't just about whether he mocked Claressa Shields. It was about how quickly public pain became entertainment once a powerful voice treated it like a joke. This phase unfolded with people taking a step back and asking a harder question: why did this hit such a nerve? Claressa Shields isn't just another celebrity caught in gossip. She's an elite athlete, a public figure who has been visibly emotional, openly human, and repeatedly scrutinized in recent weeks. The drama surrounding Papoose and Remy, including unverified pregnancy rumors, had already placed her in a vulnerable position. When 50 Cent appeared to laugh at the situation, many fans felt like they were watching the internet's worst instinct play out in real time, turning someone's distress into a punchline. What made this phase more intense was the realization that 50 cents influence multiplies impact. When an average account jokes, it might get a few laughs. When someone with his reach jokes, it sets the tone. It tells the internet how seriously, or unseriously, to take the people involved. And in this case, that tone felt dismissive. Supporters of Claressa argued that it reinforced a pattern they'd been calling out for weeks. Her emotions being minimized, while others controlled the narrative from a distance. People also began interrogating the pregnancy rumors more critically. Up to this point, many had treated them as just another piece of celebrity gossip. But once a high-profile figure appeared to reference or joke about them, the implications became heavier. Pregnancy speculation isn't harmless. It's deeply personal, invasive, and often rooted in assumptions about women's bodies. Even when false, it can cause real harm. And fans questioned why that kind of rumor was being amplified at all, let alone laughed at. This phase also reignited long-standing debates about 50 Cent's brand of humor. Defenders insisted that this was exactly what he's always done: mock trending topics, stir controversy, and refuse to play the role of moral arbiter. They argued that expecting sensitivity from him misunderstands who he is and how he operates. To them, the outrage felt selective, as if people were only upset because they were already emotionally invested in Claressa's story. But critics countered with a sharper point: consistency doesn't equal immunity. Just because someone is known for trolling doesn't mean their actions exist in a vacuum. Context matters, timing matters, and when humor intersects with someone else's unresolved emotional situation, it can cross from irreverent into harmful, even if that harm wasn't intended. Another layer that deepened during this phase was gendered perception. Many observers noted that Claressa's emotional responses had been scrutinized far more harshly than the behavior of others involved in the drama. Her tears, anger, or silence were framed as instability, while others' restraint was framed as maturity. 50 Cent's apparent mockery, they argued, didn't just target Claressa. It reinforced that imbalance by signaling that her feelings were fair game for ridicule. Mental health advocates joined the conversation, not to accuse 50 Cent of wrongdoing, but to highlight the broader issue. Public mockery during moments of vulnerability can have lasting effects. They emphasized that even strong, successful people can be deeply affected by being laughed at when they're already under pressure. And when someone with cultural power does the laughing, it legitimizes cruelty in ways that ripple outward. Meanwhile, the silence from those directly involved continued to speak volumes. Claressa did not publicly clap back. Papoose and Remy did not address 50's involvement, and that lack of response created a vacuum where speculation flourished. Some interpreted the silence as grace, others as exhaustion, others still as a strategic refusal to engage with someone who thrives on attention. No interpretation could be confirmed, but all of them added to the tension. What also became apparent in this phase was how quickly empathy erodes online. Early in the saga, many people expressed concern for Claressa's emotional well-being. But once humor entered the equation, especially from someone like 50 Cent, that concern began to fracture. Some people followed the laugh instead of the context. Others doubled down on protection. The divide wasn't just about Claressa anymore. It was about what kind of culture people wanted to participate in. This phase forced many fans to confront an uncomfortable truth. Celebrity culture often rewards detachment. The less you react, the more unbothered you appear. The more you show feeling, the more you're exposed. Claressa's openness, once praised as authenticity, was now being used indirectly as justification for mockery. And that reversal made supporters angry, because it punished the very thing people claimed to value. Another important element was irreversibility. Even if 50 Cent meant no harm, even if the posts were jokes taken out of context, even if everything were clarified tomorrow, the moment had already happened. Screenshots circulated, reactions spread, and the association between Claressa and ridicule had already been cemented in some corners of the internet. That's the danger of viral mockery, it doesn't wait for nuance. As this phase wound down, the story felt less explosive but more uneasy. The outrage wasn't as loud, but the discomfort lingered. People weren't just mad at 50 Cent, they were unsettled by how easily a woman's emotional reality could be dismissed once a powerful voice laughed. And that realization stuck. This chapter didn't deliver resolution. It delivered a reckoning, a reminder that humor is never neutral when power is involved. That silence can be protective but also isolating. And that once ridicule enters a narrative, it changes how everything else is received. The conversation was no longer just about what 50 Cent did or didn't do. It was about what the internet chose to do with it, and whether people were willing to slow down long enough to consider who was paying the price for the joke. By the time this story reached its third phase, the laughter had faded, and what remained was unease. Not outrage anymore, not shock. Just that lingering, uncomfortable feeling that something had gone too far, even if no one could agree on exactly where the line was crossed. Because once the jokes slow down and the memes stop circulating, people are left with the impact. And in this case, the impact was heavier than anyone expected. At this stage, the conversation wasn't really about 50 Cent anymore. It was about what happens when ridicule becomes the loudest voice in a story involving real emotional fallout. Whether his comments were meant as humor, provocation, or casual trolling almost became irrelevant. The effect had already landed. Claressa Shields, an athlete who had already been navigating intense public scrutiny, was now linked not just to drama, but to mockery from one of the most influential figures in hip-hop culture. And that association doesn't disappear easily. What stood out most in this phase was how clearly the power imbalance came into focus. 50 Cent has cultural armor. He's known for trolling. He's expected to be sharp. When he mocks, people shrug it off as that's just 50. Claressa does not have that same armor. Her recent visibility came from vulnerability, not bravado, and that difference matters. When someone with power laughs, the person without it absorbs the weight, whether or not they respond. Many observers began acknowledging that this wasn't about censorship or demanding sensitivity from someone whose brand has never been gentle. It was about timing and target. Jokes land differently when aimed at someone who is already under emotional strain. They land differently when the subject of the joke isn't present to control the narrative. And they land differently when the surrounding story involves deeply personal rumors, like pregnancy, that shouldn't be fodder for entertainment in the first place. By now, even some defenders of 50 Cent conceded that the moment felt unnecessary. Not because it was unprecedented, but because it didn't add anything except noise. It didn't clarify facts. It didn't expose wrongdoing. It didn't challenge power. It simply amplified a situation that was already hurting someone, and that realization softened the earlier defenses. Claressa's continued silence in this phase became more poignant than before. It no longer felt like avoidance or strategy. It felt like self-preservation. When the conversation turns into ridicule, engaging rarely restores dignity, it often feeds the cycle. Choosing not to respond can be the only way to keep what's left of your peace. But that choice comes with a cost. The narrative continues without you. What made this phase especially sobering was how many people recognized themselves in the dynamic. Not as celebrities, but as humans. People who have been laughed at when they were hurting. People who have watched others pile on because it was easier to join the joke than to sit with discomfort. People who know how quickly empathy evaporates once someone influential signals that it's okay to laugh. There was also a growing realization that the internet doesn't need villains to do harm. It just needs momentum. A joke here, a repost there, a meme stripped of context. And suddenly, someone's emotional reality is flattened into content. That's what unsettled many viewers the most, not that 50 Cent joked, but how eagerly the internet followed. In this phase, conversations began shifting toward responsibility, not legal responsibility, not moral absolutism, but social responsibility. The idea that influence amplifies impact whether you intend it or not. That being funny doesn't absolve you from consequence. And that choosing not to engage with someone's pain is different from choosing to laugh at it publicly. Importantly, this didn't end with a call for apology or accountability theater. Many people didn't expect, or even want, a response from 50 Cent. They understood his brand. What they wanted instead was awareness. A recognition that some moments aren't neutral playgrounds for humor. That not every trending topic needs commentary. And that restraint, especially from powerful voices, can matter more than cleverness. As the noise died down, the story didn't resolve, it settled. It became another example filed away in collective memory of how quickly narratives turn cruel when emotion meets entertainment. Another reminder that women's vulnerability is still too easily dismissed once it becomes inconvenient or uncomfortable. And another lesson in how silence, mockery, and power interact in public spaces. This chapter didn't end with a winner. Claressa didn't clap back. 50 Cent didn't get canceled. The internet didn't suddenly grow kinder. What it ended with instead was clarity for those willing to see it. Clarity about how easily empathy can be overridden, about how influence shapes tone, and about how someone can be strong, successful, and still deserving of care when they're hurting. And maybe that's the quiet takeaway here. Not that jokes are forbidden, not that celebrities owe us perfection, but that context is everything. And when context is ignored, even laughter can leave a bruise long after the sound fades. Before you scroll, pause, because moments like this show how quickly humor can turn into harm when context is ignored. What happened here wasn't just about a joke or a post. It was about watching how influence, timing, and vulnerability collide, and how easily empathy gets overridden once laughter enters the room. If you stayed through this, it means you saw the shift. The moment when entertainment stopped feeling harmless and started feeling uncomfortable. That awareness matters, because the internet moves fast, but the impact on real people lasts much longer than a meme cycle. So don't just consume this and move on like it was nothing. Like this video to support conversations that question pylons instead of feeding them. Comment with what you felt when the tone changed, not to attack anyone, but to reflect on where lines should exist when someone is already under pressure. And subscribe because stories like this don't end with one post or one joke. They evolve, and context becomes more important the longer they last. This isn't about canceling anyone. It's about choosing not to normalize cruelty as entertainment. Staying engaged thoughtfully is how you make sure empathy doesn't disappear just because someone powerful laughed first.